Welcome back. So we today, of course, have your money mindset bonus session, and we've got Andrew with us. But before we go through that, I just want to review what happened last week. We did the month 2 review, which is about goals and habits. And we talked about that this particular time is the time that we can find obstacles showing up. Usually the enthusiasm has worn off, and now we're getting a little uncomfortable with our new habits forming. And we tend to find a lot of distraction, a lot of busyness, a lot of TV watching, a lot of, seeing something else that you could end up doing instead, some sort of like shiny object coming along. And last week, when we talked to both Trish and Lane, we talked about looking at your vision, the initial thing that you wrote on the confidential questionnaire, that what did you want to have happen for you in the next 2 to 3 years? And then also, did you have all the information you need? Do you have the setup that you need? Because all of these things can slow you down. Any tiny little thing, it might seem little in the beginning, but it starts to get really annoying and will stop you from taking action. And we want to get rid of as many obstacles as we possibly can. But then we also talked about that maybe what was also happening for you is that you perhaps had some limiting beliefs, some perhaps old patterns, some self-sabotaging behavior, which is why we have Endra, who you've met before, as coming along to help us try to see past these things. This is generally blind spots for us. We're not very good at seeing these things. We usually have plenty of clues about what somebody else is doing, but for ourselves, not so much. Now, just before we talk to Andrew about this, I just want you to, we've spent a lot of time creating a spending plan for you. And the purpose of the spending plan, when we did the educated spending decisions, we talked about using that plan to then make a decision about your spending. And that was to get the information, to put it in there, then to work out, is this something that you really want? Is this aligning with your goals? Is this aligning with what you say you want to see for the rest of your life? And if it isn't, then perhaps it's not something that you want to do. But if you feel compelled to do it, perhaps something else is going on. So we want Endra to come along and help us try to understand what might be happening and to release whatever it is. So I'm going to hand it over to him. We want you to really get new results in your finances and to figure out what is holding you back so that you can release it. And we did say that at this point, we're going to go through this, but there's a special gift for people who come to the session, and that is to spend some extra time personally with Andra to really dig deep into what that limitation could be for you. So on that note, I'm going to hand it over to Andra, and we're going to learn what we can about this.
Hey, thank you very much. Let me just start with exactly this little logo that we have up on the slide, which is your mind shifts or shifts, which really happens in life. How it really plays out is you have set a goal if you did that, and I'm hoping you've done that, and then you go back into the environment that you have been in so far, and the old patterns, or I call them wounds, start to attack this goal. And we talked about this a lot with Amira, and what we find is about 2 weeks into setting the goal, there is a serious goal amnesia starts to happen, where there are so many limiting programming in the way. There is so much negative emotion behind it that it's kind of easier to find ways to not go for this goal and take on the old suggestions again from the environment. These are the people who has a good opinion about what we want to do, and also the internal voices in our head. And when those start to attack this goal, then comes the big way of avoiding and doing all kinds of things that has nothing to do with the goal. Let me give you an example so you can really possibly relate to this. I was myself in a hard relationship with my father most of my life. And at home, when my father came home from about age 6 to 15, I remember when he was at home, stress level just went higher and the air started to be icy. And my father was an entrepreneur. And what I've seen from entrepreneurship or starting your own business, all I have seen that my father had serious relationship troubles at work, at home with the employees. He was at ground zero with his emotions. He was angry. He was always stressed. He was fighting and kicking at firing business partners. He was miserable. And about 5 years ago, I decided that if I really don't want to work for anyone else or be on someone else's goal plan, I need to set up my own business and doing my own things. But imagine this. I have set a goal to start my own business, right? But see, my mind has seen and been a witness to my father going into absolute ground zero in most areas of life and eventually sick of cancer and dying. Now, you can imagine that my mind had made some decisions about being an entrepreneur and go your own way and build your business, whereas I have seen just trauma and failure and dead end in my version of my father seeing him. So I set this goal and I have these two monkeys sitting on my shoulders. One says, you need to build your own business. Here are your goals. And on the other one, there is this unconscious hold up or programming that says, well, if you build your own business, that's what the monkey says, then you have to deal with ground zero in most areas of life. You're gonna ruin your marriage and your life. Your kids gonna hate you. That's what I've been through. So imagine if you have this programming running, this is pulling you apart. So what people normally do, they just go watch TV. So they don't have to deal with this. Or they maybe go shopping. Or sometimes they are addicted to eating, drugs, alcohol, partying, anything but going for the goal. And as long as that programming is in place, there's no movement. There is just being stuck. And how many clients have you seen that, Amira, if I could ask you? Is this common?
Unfortunately, it is very common. It usually happens around this point where we've tried and we've taken a whole bunch of action, which is great. We've set up some things, but this is generally the point around the 2-month mark that we start to notice the avoidance of taking action on tasks. And people do often find that they say, I want to do it, but something just is stopping me. And then unfortunately, there's the frustration and there's the guilt and there's the, well, what's wrong with me? And And of course, then there's all that internal chatter that's going along with that. Like, I guess the two monkeys sitting there, there's the yes, but the no, and yeah, it gets tiring.
So how did you deal with this in previous years before you actually met me? What did you do?
Well, unfortunately, it's just a case of trying to lift people up and, kind of like boost them and say, come on, let's try to motivate you here. Let's go back to what the vision is. What's the goal? Why? I definitely wanted people to spend a lot of time on why. Why do you want this? I even worked for a little while with some other mindset people, and I thought that would be great. However, I just didn't find that the same results is there that has occurred with RCT. This has been just in an hour when somebody comes to see you or does an RCT session or does some of the other trainings that we've been to as well. The difference, just watching somebody change right there in front of you, or talking to them the next week and going, wow, what's happened here. I just couldn't resist uh, bringing that into the program, because I knew that that was one of the things that was missing. We can give you all the information, the structure and the tools, but if you've got something inside your own head running against you, then that makes it near impossible to get where you want to go.
Definitely.
And it's certainly exhausting. And then unfortunately the self-beating up really ramps up.
Yeah, when you were telling me how frustrating it was, in my mind I pictured this beach ball, that the beach ball comes back to you to be blown up every 2 weeks, but it has
Yes.
a hole in it.
Yeah. Yes, and it's leaking out air. That is true. That's what
and
happens.
and that hole is the unconscious mind taking away all that energy of the follow through, and then basically being stuck, blow it up again, and somehow the hole just starts to shrink that ball, and then again comes the pump up process. Yeah.
And it's really upsetting to see people have to experience that as well. So I'm just so thrilled, because I knew there had to be something, but I just couldn't seem to find it. And and there you were. I managed to find you eventually.
Hmm. So let me just give you a visual. I would really love you to, perhaps if you could, open the camera for me, because I want everyone to understand what actually happens, and I'll do a bit of drawing, not because I'm good at it, but maybe you understand it way better of what's actually happening if you are able to kind of get this camera on.
Yeah, I think that we've got you on speaker view, so it's
Beautiful.
hopefully it's mainly showing you.
Perfect. So I've got this whiteboard just for this purpose. So let's say you start to realize that you want to change your life. And before, you've been running in circles. That's what normally happens. And what really keeps you in this circle is, I call this black hole. In this black hole, you have limiting beliefs. Most people are carrying negative emotions. The big ones are normally anger, sadness, fear, hurt, guilt. There is a few other ones, regret, and some others. And of course, these are taken on somewhere before in a significant emotional event in life, and ever since, the mind decided to use these emotions to protect the individual from pain. And so you're running in these circles and not getting results. And sometimes there's one more thing. Sometimes you have these two monkeys that I told you about. So you may have a decision and then you have voices in your head. And I call these parts. So there's different parts. So this black hole is really keeping you stuck. And if you know how black holes work, they have this gravity pull, and your life starts to shrink around that black hole as they start to suck you in. And here is what normally happens. So the reason why we ask you to set goals, because somewhere along this journey, you decide to have a goal. I would call this a shiny little sun. So you decide to have a vision for yourself that could pull you towards a certain outcome. And yes, it's more money. Of course, normally it's not the money, but things that you can buy with the money or how you feel about having money. And my job here is to get you to the sun, which is your goal. And the way I do it is I have to stop you running these circles. I start to take out one by one limiting beliefs. So when you met me or you meet me, then I start to take out limiting beliefs one by one. But those limiting beliefs normally have negative emotions connected to them. So I need to take out those ones as well. Negative beliefs. Let me give you an example. I think, Amiraj, you just mentioned not feeling good enough or not feeling worthy to get whatever is my goal or vision in life. Well, it doesn't matter what area of life you're going into. If you have this belief in your mind, then all you will see is a proof of not being good enough to get the results that you want. So you are really trapped. And of course, the voices in your head, the parts, they have to be taken out as well. And here is what happens. And you may have seen this. Then these type of circles start to be in a more elongated shape. All right? You are breaking away from this black hole. It can't hold you there anymore because the old programming, the power of the black hole is diminishing. And soon enough, you find yourself break out of that gravity and you start to fly towards your vision or goal. And this is where I fit into this picture, where I don't spend too much time with you. Every session, we release something that holds you back, and you get back to action mode, taking action, following through. If anything again comes up, straight away we release it. If you decide to have taken out all of the negative programming in one go, then we could have like a half a day meeting where we go through the whole lot. But I prefer each of you to go through a process of integrating every release into action and translate that into your life, where you see the results straight away. And then you keep moving and moving to where you want to go. And Amira will just give you the tools. And there's your puzzle.
You know, that's the beautiful part about it, is that one of the ways that our brains works and our habit and changing is that we change one little thing, we learn something, and then we take some action, and that becomes our new normal. And then we do it again and again. And before you know it, all of a sudden we're this new person, but it hasn't felt painful
Mm.
and it hasn't felt exhausting. And our brain hasn't tried to revolt against us because it's like, no, I'm not changing. I'm not changing my habits or beliefs here. So it's kind of, I think it's a nice way to just have that release and then learn something, take some action with your goals, and then keep going, you know.
Yes, in really simplifying the process, my job here is to have a new friend, to have your unconscious mind, which most people cannot access, the programming there, to work with you. So you have these two minds, they will synchronize and will move towards that goal and will support you. So this internal struggle and fight around making progress and holding yourself back, that stops, and that gives you so much vitality and life force. And of course it will, that's what I see in clients, it will not just affect your finances, it does go into all areas of life. That's the natural process of reconnecting you to your true self. That's how I call this, when you start to create.
Absolutely. And it really does. It's just amazing. It really is amazing how much easier it gets to take action to reach those goals. I mean, I've found myself, obviously, you know, you've been helping me as well. And it never ceases to astound me when I stumble over something else, because I have learned now that I think I was a very, oh, you have to do everything by yourself type of person. That's how I grew up. That's what my parents told you needed to do. Don't
Yeah.
ask for help. You have to learn to do it all yourself. And the problem, though, in being in business, being an entrepreneur, or working through these negative emotions and these limited beliefs, is that you just can't see it yourself. And so now I've come to that point where I've gone, do you know what? I just have to let other people point it out for me, not as a criticism. It's certainly not a criticism. It's like, did you notice that you said this? Or did you notice that you did this? And I've noticed that you've done that before. Were you aware of that? And then you go, oh, no, because you're so used to doing it. You've probably been doing it for, you know, in my case, 30, 40 years. I've got no idea I'm doing that. So it's those little moments that you go, oh, hang on, I see what's stopping me. Let's deal with this.
Yes, it's right. That's how you describe this beautifully. And I would love to give you an example again. You need a winning team.
Yes,
I just can't say it any other way. People get results who have the right structure in place. That follow through is by having the best around you. That the $1 million racehorse. I have to bring that metaphor for you. So if you had $1 million race course or racehorse, sorry, then how would you feed that horse? What would be the instructor, if they are called instructors? I'm not too sure how they are trained. would you give every possible support and the best of everything to that investment of yours to bring you the winning prize, or to rake in all the prizes and whatever is possible to win for that horse? And how many of you, I really look into the mirror now, how many of you are really ask yourself, am I treating myself as my best investment? Because that's what you are. All the investments that you put into yourself, and especially this rapid change work, it's got a tenfold rate on investment. And everything else that you put into yourself, but this one is very fast and very effective.
I find that often, and again, it depends how we grow up. A lot of us have grown up with perhaps a belief that we're just not worth the effort, or that we haven't done enough to deserve it. And so I think that sometimes it's very challenging for us to think of ourselves as that $1 million racehorse, or that we are that investment that's worth it. But I'm hoping that at this point that you started this journey with us because you did want to come to that point where you do believe that you're worth it, and you do believe that what you learn and what you grow into is also beneficial for your family and for your community and for children if you have them, and to be a good example for others. I'm hoping that at this point in the program that you can see that, and and that's why we have Indra here, and that you would be open to working through some of this negative belief and limited emotions with him. And that's basically what that extra bonus is about as well, is having him help you get under that. It's up to you whether you take it further than that, but that's what he's here to offer us. And I really would encourage you to take that up.
Yes, if I could give you one gem, I have a mentor who is making 7+ figures every month, and it may not exactly fit Amir's way of how to budget, but he simplifies this so nicely. He says, pay yourself first, or put that 10-20% away, and then invest into yourself.
Oh, absolutely. I think what we're going to be talking about next month is at the beginning of the course, we talked about getting the book, The Richest Man in Babylon, and reading it. And the very first thing that they talk about is paying yourself first. So that also, apart from anything else, creates a buffer, which gets you out of the living payday to payday trap. But it's also about making yourself an investment, that self-care. Often we run ourselves into the ground. I've been a perfect example of that. I'm sure you've done it to yourself as well, from the conversations we've had previously. But if you run into exhaustion, so if we're using the metaphor of the racehorse, how would you expect that horse to win any race for you if you run it to the ground?
Impossible. It's absolutely impossible. So yeah, the third one is everything else. The new phone, the newest camera, or the new car, the car has to be the newest one. It's in the crap category as far as yourself as the racehorse. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, those things can be important to us, but I guess it's all about a prioritization. Whereabouts do you want that to fit? And how do you feel about yourself? And are you being your best version so that you can create more? It's really coming down to that point. But we really want you to be able to move yourself forward and get to that. I'm just looking at that beautiful little sun there. That's our goals. And really imagine what it would feel like if you were living into that dream that you have, that goal that you have. And I believe that we also have previously we talked about in the goals session, the affirmation process. So that's something that you will find in the bonuses as well. So make sure you check that out and do that. But yeah, just really get into that. What does it feel like if I could let go of all of these things that's happening in my head, that's exhausting me and holding me back? What would it feel like if I really could have this in the palm of my hand?
Yes. Unfortunately and fortunately, I have some good news for you and some bad news. So if you set out a goal for a time frame of 6 to 12 months, there's no one else, nothing else is really holding you back. It's the programming and your belief in yourself, which we can work on, and the stories that normally comes from the past that are the only things that hold you back from achieving what you want. And that we can all clear. This is why I specialize myself into rapid change to get this out of the way so you can move.
And what a blessing it is. I mean, back in that goal session we did when we were talking to Tristan, you said that I would tell you how I ended up coming to meet you. So we'll just
Oh,
tell that briefly before we finish off and get you prepared for the next month's session. But yeah, I myself, as I said, was trying to do everything by myself. I was looking for mindset people, but I also realized that something was going on in my own head. Like, what was stopping me from getting where I wanted to go? It certainly was not a lack of effort. I was running myself to the ground and putting in so much effort. I would sit here for hours upon hours trying to, the next strategy, the next, program, just whatever. I was trying everything. I was running around networking like mad. It's like, what's going on? And so I really kind of, during one of my meditations, which I definitely advocate slowing your mind down and relaxing it from all of that chatter, I said, you know what? I really need some help here. If I'm going to do this, someone has got to show up and help me. And it's not like I hadn't met people before. I certainly have, but it certainly wasn't going where I needed it to go. And then I think I was doing my LinkedIn connections and happened to, see you there, and I thought, oh, wow, what's this? What's going on with this? The profile was really interesting, so I decided to send you a message. But what was really interesting is to find out that you only lived, what was it, one or two streets away from me, which was crazy, just around the corner. And then to come across this thing called RCT is probably the biggest game changer of my life. Now, I know that hindsight really isn't, it's kind of cruel in a way, but I do wish that 15, 20 years ago, I had stumbled across it. I don't even think it was invented then yet, was it?
uh, just about started
Starting its
to be
journey.
applied, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's probably been the biggest game changer of all. And the things that I have been able to do and create, and the people that I have met from this point on after meeting you, has been just phenomenal. So, and of course, there's a lot more work to be done, but I understand that. And I don't get so mad at myself. This is a really good tip for everybody. Hopefully you agree with me. I would always believe that if I could just break through one thing, that's it. Everything would be perfect and I just get about my business, right? unfortunately, I realized that getting through that breakthrough, while wonderful, doesn't mean that that was it. I fixed the past 40 years of my life. I'm good to go. It just meant that I had access to something else as well. But what I have noticed is that with each thing that I'm able to see, I see it faster and I can release it faster, and it speeds up my results along the way. So I just don't want, I've noticed with some people as well that sometimes we have this breakthrough and then we go, oh, that's great. And then we really beat ourselves up when we notice something else came up. But I'm talking about people who are usually in their 40s and 50s at this point. So you kind of had all of this stuff from childhood and then think that you're just going to, oopsie, that's it, we're done. So just don't get cranky when something else comes to light. That's what I've learned about myself. But the process has sped itself up. And I have, tried working with therapists as well, just to try to uncover some things, but it helped a little bit, not too much. So it's been wonderful to find out about RCT and to have all these analogies and have you teach me all about this. It's fascinating and it's absolutely fabulous.
Yes, as you were saying, this two things popped up in my mind that may help everyone to understand how the mind actually works and what you are going to go through, which is we knock out the big things from the black hole. And the mind, the way the mind works, when the big ones are out of the picture and they are not controlling you anymore, then you be stronger. So the mind will able to just release some other stuff that may have been at another layer, maybe deeper. But the point is, through this process, you find that progress becomes easier, lighter, and I love to say that yes, you will have challenges and problems, you can say, but those problems will be more of a quality problems going forward, which creates this positive spiral when you are actually making progress heading toward that vision. And that puts you on the path and that gives you that momentum where you say, your mind is able to learn this. Your mind wants to learn all of the strategies to cope with your issues. And through this work, your mind picks up the strategies that I am teaching you. I don't want to be in your life after a few months. You won't need me anymore. That's the whole thing. And you just start to apply all of this.
And that is amazing. Although at this point, we always want to keep you in the community. We want everyone, of course, to be enjoying the community. Don't want you to run away. But it does come to that point where you start to release enough that you do have these easier conversations with yourself and you do move faster and faster towards what it is that you want.
Yes, empowering yourself. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in your life too long.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah. And it's absolutely wonderful. Because let's be honest, often what happens is that we do come into these things and we get promised. And I think that this is why we want to be honest with you about this as well. And not say to you, listen, you can, often there's a lot of claims out there. Oh, just, come to this and then that's it, you'll be fixed, right? Let's be straight that we need to work on this for a little bit. But also, we don't want to keep you trapped here. We want you to learn what you need to learn so then you can go and apply it and do it yourself. And then be a good example for other people as well.
Absolutely. Yes. Learn to fly, then fly and create the change that you want to see in the world.
Yeah. Oh, I do. I love that. I love that quote. So if there's anything else, any other final words before we finish off?
No, I'm not too sure if there was anything else to show on the slides. There's not much from me. I think I borrowed these words from Gandhi.
Yes, exactly. I think you did, but it's still applicable.
Yes.
So just to finish off the session, you've got that offer. We can get in contact with Endra and you'll be able to find through your course materials how to do that. I'm hoping that you have already been in contact with him about your goals clarity and that you're really clear on what you're working on for the rest of the program and moving forward. However, let me just move this forwards, being a little stubborn here. Okay, so our actions for next month is to review the month 3 course materials. And of course, continue to check in. This is really, I have stressed before that this is really the important part of the equation of this whole process, is so that we can keep you moving forward, changing habits, noticing what is coming up for you so that then you can release those things. But if we're not noticing it along the way, we don't know what to release. And if you have not gotten a copy of The Richest Man in Babylon yet, then I would really encourage you to do that, because we're going to be talking about some of the laws that are in that book. And then review your savings, because that's one of the things that is in The Richest Man in Babylon, is to move us past that payday to payday living. And to do that, we need to have a buffer. So I really want you to, not to make too many changes, but just to go and have a look. Would your savings keep you going for 3 months? And if not, that will be our first goal, is to have you at that point. And then please just get into the Facebook group and let us know what's going on. If you have any questions, ask us. If you have any comments, let us know. Perhaps just get in there and read what other people are talking about. I see that there's some interesting comments on things I have put up there recently. So maybe you should check that out. And then for next month is going to be about plan viability, but it's also going to be talking about, Andrew was talking about investing in yourself and paying yourself first. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. And hopefully we've gotten you to the point where you are comfortable enough with what you're doing day to day with your finances, that then we're going to start planning further into the future. And then there's some other nifty little software features that we haven't really shown you yet. So we'll spend a little time with that. So until then, I just want to thank you again, Andrew, for being here for us. It's been a real blessing to be able to incorporate this into action, because this is one of the areas that trips us up. It's not that we don't want to take action, something is getting in our way, and to be able to knock this off is beautiful. So again, thank you for that. And until next time, I'm sure we will have you back.
Definitely. Slingshot out of that black hole forever.
Absolutely.